Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going deep.
Deep?
Yeah, deep into some really surprising biblical stories.
Yeah.
Specifically 7 deaths that just might make you rethink how you understand God's justice.
It's so easy to think of the Bible as this simple good versus evil story.
Right.
But honestly, it's so much more complicated than that.
Yeah.
It's full of these complex situations and characters that you just can't put in a box.
Right.
And these 7 deaths we're talking about, they kind of force us to face some tough questions about faith, obedience, and what happens when you're a hypocrite.
So where are we getting all this from?
Well,
what's our source material for this deep dive?
We're looking at this online video.
Okay.
It's called 7 Strangest Deaths in the Bible. This will shock you.
Wow. That's,
Yeah, intense.
it is a little clickbaity.
Right.
But it does bring up some pretty interesting questions.
Yeah, it definitely got my attention.
About the stories themselves. Right.
It's easy to kind of just dismiss these stories as like weird or just skip over the hard parts.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think if we really wrestle with them,
we
can learn a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive in.
Okay.
First story, Onan.
Okay.
The guy who, he made some not so great choices about family planning.
Right. Onan.
Yeah.
Genesis 38.
Okay.
To understand it, we have to think about Levirate marriage.
Levirate marriage. Okay.
Onan's brother he died.
Okay.
Left behind a widow, Tamar.
Okay.
And so with this custom, Onan was supposed to marry her.
Oh, okay.
And have kids with her.
Okay.
To carry on the family line.
So it wasn't just about like romance, it was about the family, like the name.
The name, the legacy.
Your whole future.
The money too, the inheritance.
So big pressure there.
Yeah.
But Onan, he didn't exactly like jump at this.
He did not.
He did not.
He went through the motions, slept with Tamar, but he did something. He spilled his seed on the ground.
Wow.
Stopped her from getting pregnant.
Okay.
And the Bible says God was not happy.
Not happy at all.
And Onan died.
Whoa, that's what I always found so fascinating.
Yeah.
What was it about that was so bad?
That's a good question.
Was it the, the act itself, like messing with procreation?
People have been debating this for centuries.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It really gets to what we're trying to do here.
Okay.
Some people focus on the act.
Okay.
Like, you're going against God's design.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Others focus on the disobedience to his father.
Oh, right.
Judah.
Okay.
He told him to do his duty to Tamar.
It wasn't just about God. It was about the family, too.
Yeah.
And, think about Tamar.
Right. He totally disrespected her.
Yeah.
Using her, but not caring about her future.
Or her feelings.
Or the family's future.
Right.
Some scholars even say it's hypocrisy.
Oh, interesting.
Like he's doing what he's told, but in his heart, he's rebelling.
Against God, against his dad.
Against everything.
So we're seeing this hypocrisy thing already.
Yeah, we're
following the rules outwardly, but inside it's different.
Right.
But couldn't you also say he was just trying to have some control in his life?
That's fair.
He was being forced into this.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
It is. We don't know all of Onan's reasons.
Right.
But the text seems to say it was a big offense against God, against society.
Maybe it was all those things. Selfishness, defiance.
Not understanding what the custom was really about.
It makes you think about all sorts of things.
Sexuality, family, choice, obedience.
Not simple at all.
Nope.
And that's what makes these stories so, I don't know, so gripping.
They challenge us. They make us think.
It's like Lot's wife. Fleeing Sodom, looks back, boom.
Pillar of salt.
The classic punishment story.
Right.
But I remember learning that Hebrew word for look back.
It's more than that.
It's more than a glance, right?
Way more. It's like she was really looking.
Observing, taking it in.
Almost like she longed for it.
So not just a quick peek.
No.
Her heart was still back there.
Even though she was physically leaving.
So maybe it wasn't just about disobeying.
Maybe not.
Maybe there was more going on inside her.
Right. This inner struggle.
Wanting one thing, doing another.
Exactly.
I felt that pull between two worlds.
And that's the connection to Onan.
Okay.
Disobeying, yes.
But also that inner turmoil.
Outwardly doing it, inwardly rebelling.
A divided heart.
A divided heart, yeah.
We've all been there.
In some way, yeah.
Feeling pulled, desires clashing with what we should do.
It's human.
It is.
Speaking of struggles.
Yeah. Let's talk about Nadab and Abihu.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron's sons. These guys were priests.
They were.
Chosen for the tabernacle then. Bam!
Gone.
Struck down by fire from God.
It's not a good ending.
No.
They offered up strange fire.
Strange fire, okay.
On the altar. God specifically said not to do that.
So they knew the rule.
They did. The text kind of hints.
Yep.
They might have been drunk.
Oh, wow.
Which, led to messing things up.
Instead of following the incense ritual.
Exactly.
So it wasn't just a mistake. It was like...
It was being in the wrong state of mind.
While doing holy stuff.
Yeah, maybe even disrespecting the ritual.
It's like, are we seeing a pattern here?
What do you mean?
These deaths, it's not just random.
Okay.
It's connected to something deeper.
Go on.
Like actions not matching up with how they should be.
Like a disconnect between the outside and the inside?
Exactly. Nadab and Abihu.
Yeah.
They were these leaders.
Representing God, right?
But they weren't living up to it.
You're really picking up on something.
It makes you wonder, is it more about what you do or...
Or the state of your heart?
Yeah, what matters more to God?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is.
And it takes us to our next story.
Okay.
Achan. He couldn't resist that forbidden treasure.
Achan, he disobeyed. God said, no spoils from Jericho.
Right.
But he hid stuff in his tent.
And then defeat for the Israelites.
And he and his family, they died.
Yeah, that one's always felt harsh.
It is. His actions.
Yeah.
They caused so much suffering.
They did. Achan's one little act.
It had huge consequences.
36 Israelite soldiers died because of it.
And their families, wow.
But come on, who wouldn't be tempted?
Yeah.
Gold, silver, fancy clothes.
After a battle, like, come on.
He's human.
But Achan confessed.
He did.
He admitted to being greedy.
He said covetousness drove him.
Outwardly, he was God's chosen.
But inside, all greed.
That's what led to everything falling apart.
It was. His inner desires didn't match his outer life.
So it's not just taking the stuff, it's why he did it.
It's the heart attitude behind it.
Agreed, the wanting more.
And his confession shows us something about ourselves.
What do you mean?
We can try to hide, pretend to be good.
Okay.
But our actions show what's really inside.
And those actions, they have an impact.
Big time. On us, on everyone around us.
It's not enough to just go through the motions, then.
You gotta mean it.
Your actions have to match what you believe.
Exactly. If not, there are consequences.
Okay. Wow, that's heavy stuff.
It is.
One more story for this part of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good.
This one's in the early church.
Right.
Ananias and Sapphira.
The couple who tried to trick the apostles.
And the Holy Spirit. Yeah, that didn't end well.
Lay it on me. What happened?
Early Christians, they were living together.
Okay.
Sharing everything, supporting each other.
Right.
Ananias and Sapphira, they sold some property.
Okay.
Brought some of the money to the apostles.
Okay.
But they pretended it was all of it.
Oh, wow.
They wanted to seem generous, but...
But they were holding back.
Yep, hypocrisy at its finest.
Trying to buy their way into God's favor.
And they didn't fool anyone.
What?
Peter, one of the apostles...
Yeah.
He called them out.
Oh, wow.
Said they lied to the community. And
and then they both died right there.
Whoa, talk about a message.
A strong one.
God doesn't mess around.
He doesn't.
So, with Jesus, things didn't change that much.
Nope. Honesty and integrity, still super important.
But, I mean, wasn't it just a little lie?
I think it was more than that.
Okay.
They were hurting the community.
The early Christians, right?
Yeah, that community was based on trust, sharing, honesty.
So pretending to give everything.
Yeah, that was like attacking the core of it.
It was more than money then.
It was about trust and the damage they could do.
They were putting themselves first.
Above the whole group.
Even lying to the Holy Spirit.
Exactly. It raises the question.
Yeah.
Is hypocrisy worse than just being against the church?
That's a deep one.
And are we still dealing with this today?
Outwardly religious, but inwardly, who knows?
And what does it mean for us?
Yeah, for us trying to live out our faith.
In a world where looking good is everything.
Those are big questions.
They are, and ones we'll keep exploring.
In the next part of our deep dive.
We've covered a lot.
We have.
Obedience, hypocrisy, that divided heart.
Yeah, let's take a moment to think about all this.
Before we jump back in.
Welcome back to our deep dive into these, these kind of unexpected biblical deaths.
Yeah.
As we keep going, I'm really curious. Yeah. What really hit you from those stories in part one?
It's amazing to me. These stories are old.
Right.
Ancient, but they still, get to us today.
They do.
Because it's about human stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Temptation, wanting to be accepted,
Being afraid of what might happen.
Even though it's a different time, different world.
Totally.
It's about the heart, about being human.
You said a few times this divided heart idea.
Right.
Hypocrisy, it's big in these stories.
It is.
But is it the one sin God can't handle?
Good.
What about all the others? Murder, adultery, idols, all that?
It's not about, like, ranking sins.
Okay.
But hypocrisy, it messes you up from the inside.
How do you mean?
It's this gap between what you say you believe and what you actually do.
Right, that disconnect we talked about.
It's like building a fancy house on sand.
Oh, yeah, it's not going to last.
Yep, you crumble.
So we're not honest about our struggles.
We put on this mask, this good person show.
But we're faking it.
And that just makes things worse. With God, too.
Okay, so it hurts us and our relationship with God.
Yeah, and think about what it does to a whole community.
Oh, yeah, like the early church.
Exactly. If people are living double lives.
Pretending one thing, being another.
Trust breaks down, everyone's suspicious.
Like a poison, it spreads.
It does. It weakens those bonds, you know.
Of being together, of supporting each other.
And then you can't really reflect God's love.
Right, it's all messed up.
Yeah, it gets in the way.
So these stories, it's like God is saying.
What do you think he's saying?
Being real is more important than just doing the right things.
Authenticity, yeah. Integrity.
More than just following the rules.
It's about who you are inside.
Your heart has to be in it.
It does. And these stories, they're warnings. Yeah. But they're also like an invitation.
To what?
To look deeper, to be honest with yourself.
So less of that fake it till you make it stuff?
Yeah, way less.
More like be real with yourself, with God.
That's it. Your heart and your actions.
You gotta line up.
They do. And it starts with admitting you're not perfect.
Right, asking God for help.
Exactly.
That sounds hard, though.
It is.
Our culture is all about showing off, looking good.
Success, being perfect, yeah.
Humility doesn't get you many likes on social media.
It doesn't, but trying to be perfect all the time, it's just empty. You're spiritually bankrupt.
So what's the answer? What does real humility look like?
It's knowing you need God.
Okay.
It's not all about you. You're not the center.
Okay.
And being open to learning, to being wrong.
So it's like letting go of that ego.
That need to control everything.
Saying, I need help. Looking to something bigger.
That's it. That's the starting point.
It's not putting yourself down, though, right?
No, not at all. It's more like recognizing those good things you have.
Yeah.
They come from God. Using them for him.
Not to show off.
Right. It's a subtle difference, but important.
So not denying your abilities.
But knowing where they came from.
And using them the right way.
For good, for God, for others.
When you think that way, you don't have to compare yourself to everyone else.
No more keeping up with the spiritual Joneses.
You can just focus on your own path.
The one God has for you.
Without pretending, without trying to impress.
That's freedom.
It is. These stories, they're hard.
They are.
But they're also encouraging, in a way.
How do you mean?
God isn't looking for perfect people.
No, he's not.
He wants us to be real.
Authentic.
To say, hey, I'm struggling.
I need help.
To let him work with our messes.
That's the beauty of grace.
It's for everyone, no matter what.
No matter your past, what you're going through.
That's good to remember.
It is, and it brings us to another key thing.
Okay, what's that?
Accountability. We can't do this alone.
We need people, right?
We do. People to walk with us.
To what? Keep us in check.
Challenge us, encourage us, help us stay on the path.
Like a spiritual support system.
That's it. Think about the early Christians.
Okay.
They were all in, sharing lives, resources.
Looking out for each other.
And holding each other accountable.
Even when you're alone.
Yeah, it's easy to slip up.
To get complacent.
We need others to show us what we can't see.
To call us out lovingly.
Exactly. It's not about judging.
Right. It's about caring enough to be honest.
Even when it's hard.
And to be willing to hear that truth.
Yes, even when it hurts.
Because sometimes that's love, right?
It is. Saying, hey, I see you struggling, let's help.
This accountability thing, it's hitting home for me.
How so?
I've been there, feeling alone in my faith.
Try and do it all yourself.
Exactly, and that's when I made bad choices.
Compromised your values.
Got caught up in that hypocrisy.
It happens.
Having people who care, who can push me, encourage me, it seems so important.
It is, for growing spiritually.
And it's not just about getting support.
No.
It's about giving it too.
To walk alongside others.
To listen without judging.
To offer that encouragement, that guidance.
To be a real community.
People who are there for each other.
Helping each other grow, become more like Christ.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
That's a beautiful picture, you know?
It is.
Honesty, support, challenges.
And that grace, changing us.
We need each other.
We do. We can't do this alone.
That support, that love, it's what makes a real community.
It does. It's powerful.
But as powerful as community is...
There's one more thing.
Okay, what is it?
And this one is probably the hardest of all.
Lay it on me.
Surrender.
Surrender? Ooh, that's a bit...
intense.
Yeah, a little intimidating.
I get it. It sounds like losing control.
Giving up, becoming passive.
But it's not about that. It's more about...
What?
Seeing the bigger picture. Trusting something bigger than us.
Okay, so we've talked about knowing ourselves.
Being humble, needing others to help us.
But how does letting go of control actually work?
It starts with realizing, even when we try our best,
yeah,
we're not really in charge.
Life happens, right?
Life happens, plans get messed up.
We make mistakes.
Surrender, saying, God, I can't do this.
Okay.
I need your help, even if it's not what I want.
So it's that moment when you're banging your head.
Yeah, kind of.
Trying to force things, and finally you're like, fine.
There's some of that in it.
But it's not just giving up when it's hard.
No, it's more than that.
What else is it then?
It's choosing to trust God.
Even when it doesn't make sense.
Even when it feels uncomfortable.
Or like you're going backwards.
It's about faith, even when you can't see it all.
That reminds me of those stories, Onan, Lot's wife,
yeah,
Nadab and Abihu. They were all about control.
They wanted to run the show.
To get their way.
And it didn't end well.
No, it backfired big time.
They're like warnings, you know.
Don't cling too tightly to your own way.
Because you're only seeing a small part of it.
Trying to force things, it just hurts everyone.
Yourself, those around you?
So letting go, how do we know? We're not just being pushovers.
It's a balance, for sure.
How do you surrender and be responsible?
You're right. It's not about being passive or not taking responsibility for your choices.
So what is it about?
It's knowing you have a part to play.
Okay.
But you're not the main character.
We're not writing the story.
We're not the director of this whole thing.
More like actors.
Yes.
Following the script, trusting the director.
Even when you don't get all the cues.
That's a good way to put it.
Right.
But how do we know what the script is?
God's plan for our lives.
Yeah. Are we waiting for a sign from heaven?
It's usually not that dramatic.
Okay.
It's more about paying attention.
Tell what?
To those little nudges from the Spirit.
Okay.
Doors opening, doors closing.
Opportunities, challenges.
That inner voice, that feeling.
Of peace or uneasiness.
That's what guides you to your purpose.
So not a map, but a compass.
Yes. A sense of direction, a guiding principle.
And sometimes that compass, it takes you through rough stuff.
It does. Disappointments, challenges, doubts.
But even then, you're saying?
Even then, God is there.
Guiding you, working it all out.
For your good in the end.
I'm starting to see it.
Yeah.
How it all connects, knowing yourself, being humble.
Meeting others, and then letting go.
To something bigger, trusting God even when it's hard.
That's living out your faith, the real deal.
It's a journey, that's for sure.
It is.
But it's also freeing, in a way.
What do you mean?
When you stop trying to control everything,
yeah,
there's a peace, a joy.
You could never find on your own.
Because you're not on your own.
You're connected to something bigger.
And when we surrender, like truly surrender,
what happens then?
God can use us in ways we can't even imagine.
You become part of something bigger.
Our lives show His grace, His love.
A light in the darkness.
We started with death.
We did.
But we're ending with life. Real life.
Full of purpose, meaning.
When we let go of our own little view.
And embrace God's love, His wisdom.
That's beautiful.
It is. These stories, they're tough.
But they point us to something better.
Living in harmony with God.
Being authentic, having integrity, trusting God even when we don't understand.
That's the heart of it.
So think about this.
What should we be thinking about?
What are you holding on to too tightly?
Where are you resisting?
What would it look like to just let go?
To open your hands, to trust.
That's something to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive.
Into these strange, unexpected deaths.
Keep seeking, keep asking those tough questions.
And keep surrendering.
To the power of faith.
It can change everything.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring these biblical stories.
Yeah, these deaths that, you know.
Totally unexpected. And in the last two parts.
We've been talking about.
Hypocrisy, being real, needing those support systems.
Accountability.
Right, accountability. But you left us hanging with this idea of surrender.
It's
like the key to real faith.
It can be a scary word, right?
It is. It sounds like
giving up, losing control.
Becoming passive.
But I think it's more about.
What is it about?
Recognizing there's something bigger going on.
Than us. Than our own plans.
Than our own understanding, yeah.
Okay, so help me out here.
Sure.
We talked about flaws, humility, needing people to,
Keep us honest.
All right, but how does letting go of control actually work?
It starts with admitting, even when we try our hardest.
Yeah.
We're not the ones calling the shots.
Life throws those curveballs, right?
It does. Plans get messed up, we mess up.
We're human.
We are. And surrender is saying,
what are we saying?
God, I can't do this. I need you.
Even if
it's not what you had in mind.
So it's that moment, when you're just banging your head against the wall.
Trying to make something happen.
And you finally give up. Fine, universe, you win.
There's some of that, for sure.
But it's not just giving up when it's hard.
It's not just about that.
It's more.
It is.
So what else is there?
It's choosing to trust God's plan.
Even when we don't get it.
Even when it feels weird, uncomfortable.
Like the wrong way.
It's about faith, taking that leap.
Think about those stories. Onan, Lot's wife.
Right.
Nadab and Abihu. They were all about control.
They wanted to be in charge.
To get what they wanted.
And it didn't work out for them.
No, it blew up in their faces.
They're like cautionary tales,
Yeah.
Don't cling too tight to your way of doing things.
Because you're missing the bigger picture.
Exactly, and trying to force things.
It usually just hurts people.
It does, yourself, everyone around you.
Okay, so letting go.
Yeah.
How do we make sure we're not just,
What do you mean?
Becoming doormats? How do you surrender?
Right.
But still take responsibility?
It's tricky finding that balance.
It is.
Surrender isn't about being passive.
Okay, good to know.
It's not about saying whatever happens, happens.
Right, there are still choices.
There are. You still have a part to play.
Okay.
But you're not the star of the show.
We're not writing the script, directing.
We're not in charge of the whole production.
So we're like the actors.
Exactly.
We show up, we know our lines.
You bring your talent, your energy.
But we trust the director.
Even when we don't understand every cue.
That's a great way to put it.
Isn't it?
But how do we know what the script is?
The million-dollar question.
God's plan for us, are we just waiting for a sign?
A booming voice, a burning bush. Not usually.
Okay, so how do we figure it out?
It's more about paying attention to the little things.
What kind of things?
Those nudges from the spirit, feeling drawn to something or repelled by it. Doors closing, doors opening.
Opportunities, challenges.
That inner voice, that gut feeling.
That peace or that knot in your stomach.
That's your compass, pointing you in the right direction.
So not a detailed map, but a direction.
A guiding principle, a sense of what's right.
And sometimes that compass takes you through some rough terrain.
It does. Through tough times, doubts.
But even then, you're saying.
Even then, God is there with you.
Guiding you, using those hard times.
To shape you, to make you stronger.
I'm seeing how it all fits together now.
You are.
Knowing yourself, being humble, needing others.
And then, that final step, surrender.
Letting go, trusting God when it's hard.
That's what it means to really live out your faith.
It's a process, a journey.
It is, a lifelong one.
But there's freedom in it. When you stop trying to control everything.
You find peace, a joy that's different.
Because you're not doing it alone anymore.
You're connected to something so much bigger.
And when we truly surrender.
What happens then?
I think God can work through us in amazing ways.
Ways we can't even imagine.
We become part of something bigger.
Your life becomes a reflection of His love.
A light in a world that needs it.
We started with death, these stories.
But we're ending with life.
Real life, full of meaning.
When we let go of our limited view.
And embrace God, His love, His wisdom.
It's beautiful, even with all the hard parts.
It is. These stories, they challenge us.
But they point us to something better.
Living in tune with God.
Being authentic, being real. Trusting Him, even when it's scary.
That's what it's all about.
So, one last thought for you as you go about your day.
Okay, I'm listening.
What are you holding on to too tightly?
What are you resisting?
What would it look like to just loosen your grip?
Open your hands, take that leap of faith.
That's something to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive.
Into these unexpected deaths, these ancient stories.
They're still speaking to us, even today.
Inviting us to a deeper faith, a richer life.
Keep seeking, keep asking those tough questions.
And keep surrendering to the one who knows the way.